Hello from Shalom Acres. I want to give a brief update on the last 3 days that we've had for butchering a cow. But before we do that, I want to give a big thanks to Zach and Abram for coming down to the house to help out. And in the future, I think Zach's got some good footage as far as of that. But my wife and I, Stephanie, we really just want to break down kind of what happened between the two parties as far as, outside working versus inside. So that way you can understand it's not just, killing the animal and cutting it up. There's a whole lot of other benefits that you can get from the animal if you do that properly. So we'll start on day number 1. So day number 1, we went ahead and butchered, we gutted the animal, and when we gutted the animal, we right away brought in all the we brought in all the fat from that. So then I could turn that over to Stephanie, along with we brought in the kidneys, the heart, and the liver. So those were all items that we brought in to allow her to go ahead and start working in the inside, and I'll let her talk about that.
Okay, with the fat, we had to cool it first, so we threw it in the freezer for about probably 2 or 3 hours. And while I did that, I would cut up all the liver and the heart and the kidneys. Actually, the kidneys were in the freezer, but I cut up the heart and the liver for dog food. We diced that all up, and we mixed it with a few things. I've actually got the recipe on the website, so you can look there. And we got about 33 half pints of dog food for our little dogs. They're about 5 or 6 pounds, I think. They're maybe a little bit more.
Yeah,
but they're little. And so that should hold them over for about a month and a half, I guess. And with the bones, you also brought in some bones. Did you bring them in
yes,
at that point?
Yeah.
Okay, so we made beef broth with that. I've also got the recipe on the website for that. We ended up with 15 quarts of beef broth, and we had plenty of bones to spare. Zach took some, and we gave some to Dave also. Obviously, cows have lots of bones, so you can make tons of beef broth with that. And then when the fat was ready, we took it in and cut that up, and went ahead and rendered tallow. And what we do with tallow is we're going to make candles and soap out of that. It's really, really good for your skin. So we're going to try to do that this time. And as we get recipes, we'll put those up there. We haven't really done that yet. We have made tallow before, but we haven't really done too much with it. So this time we're going to experiment a little bit and see what we can do with that, and get back to you guys and give you updates, and hopefully maybe even sell some online. So.
And then for us, the rest of that day was actually getting the animal kind of broken down into the different components as far as the meat components that we were then the following day going to go ahead and actually start cutting up. So when day 1 was done, we had the front legs, the ribs, the back straps, your tenderloins, all those items in a cooler, soaking with ice on top, and then that allowed the ice to drain through and pull out the remainder of the blood. But we were very fortunate that it was actually cool enough outside, so we were able to keep the back hams up overnight, and that allowed us not to have to continue to push the working hours late into the evening time. So on day number 2, we went ahead and all that meat that was in the cooler, we went ahead and cut up the different cuts of steak and the different things for stew meat. In a minute here, I'll kind of tell the totals as far as where we're at, and then we're also able to cut up the remainder of the back legs. So those back legs, then as we pulled meat out of the coolers, as far as the ribs, the strip steaks, and those types of things in the fillet, that freed up the cooler space we needed, so then we could go ahead and take the back legs and put those in there, so then that way they could drain through with ice, and then finish those up the following day. So some of the totals that we got from that, as we got certain pieces and parts done. For the ribs, we ended up getting 40 ribs. That ended up being that's going to be about 6 meals for our family. And then the ribeyes, we ended up with 40 ribeyes. All these steaks were cut about 1 inch thick. We ended up with 25 New York strips, 24 fillets. We ended up with 14 plus 3-pound roasts. And then I'll turn it over to Stephanie with what she did with some of the items that we brought in the house.
Okay, after he ground up, I don't know how much ground beef did you end up getting. Was it close to 100 pounds, I think. It came in slowly in big pans at a time, so I had about 15 pounds at a time to work with. So I made meatloaf I made 3 2-pound meatloafs, and I cooked them and went ahead and froze those. That'll be 3 meals. And then we canned most of the ground beef. We ended up canning 74 pint jars of ground beef. That'll hold us over for a long time. We're trying to cut back on meat, so they're just 1 pound. Each pint holds 1 pound or 2 cups. And so we've got that. We also can beef tips. We got about 32 pints of those, and those will go a long way also. And then we also froze some ground beef in the freezer. So we've got 1 pound bags of those. We got 23 1 pound bags, and we had kept some raw too, just in case, when it gets warm, we can grill out some hamburgers or make meatballs or whatever. I just kind of ran out of steam after a while, so I just froze about 14 pounds of that. So we got quite a bit of ground beef this time, and we're really excited to have it all ready to go for quick meals. And it's going to be really easy to get together and throw together some stuff, other vegetables that we've been canning, and beans and everything. So hopefully from here on out, cooking will be really easy on a daily basis. So we're excited.
Yeah, so it took us 3 days literally to process the whole animal from beginning to end. Quite a bit of hours associated with it, but I think the part that's not only so proud for our family is the amount of food that we got, but also the little waste that we had. If you look at that whole animal and see how it was all processed, so the amount of fat that we were able to keep, the bones, really the only areas that we did not keep was obviously the head, but we did actually keep the horns on it. It did have some smaller horns, and we're going to go ahead and make a shofar out of that. This is what we're planning on doing. Hopefully we can get something up on that, or show at least some pictures of that when it's done. And then the hide was given away, so that was used. Really it came down to the head, the vertebrae, and some of the internal organs that we couldn't salvage into for dog food and other items that we ended up having to throw away, and the hooves. So when you look at all that, I'm really proud about how we were able to use the animal, and hopefully you'll get that same experience someday on your farm.
Thank you guys for watching.
Shalom.
Shalom.